you did not lose them. They made sure you lost everything else first. Your friends, your reputation, the people who knew you before they did, the version of yourself that existed in other people's minds, the one you had spent years building through actual behavior, actual kindness, actual presence. Gone. Not through anything you did. Through a campaign that was running before you even knew there was a war. And the most devastating part was not what they said about you. It was who believed it. People you trusted. People who had seen you at your best. People who you thought knew you well enough to ask before they decided. They did not ask. They listened to a version of you that you would not have recognized. A version assembled from half-truths, out-of-context moments, and outright fabrications. Packaged in a tone of genuine concern. And they believed it. And you were left standing in the wreckage of something you did not destroy, wondering how this happened, wondering what you did wrong, wondering why no one asked you. This video is going to tell you exactly what happened. Not just what a smear campaign is, but how it is built, why it works so devastatingly well, and what is actually happening inside the person who built it. And I'm going to tell you something at the end of this video that nobody says directly to people who have survived a smear campaign. Something that changes not just how you understand what happened, but how you carry it from this point forward. Stay until the end, because that last part is the most important one. Let me start with a moment. The first time you heard it. Something someone said. Maybe a mutual friend, maybe a family member, maybe someone you barely knew, that told you a story about yourself that you did not recognize. A version of events that had your name in it, but sounded nothing like what actually happened. And something specific happened in that moment. Not just shock, something deeper. The specific disorientation of having your own story told back to you in a version that makes you the villain. Of hearing yourself described by people who were not there, using words you did not say, describing motivations you did not have, and realizing that someone had been working while you were healing, while you were trying to make sense of what happened, while you were grieving a relationship that had cost you more than you knew yet. They were working, building something. And by the time you found out, it was already built. Here is what you need to understand about a smear campaign. It is not a reaction. That is the first thing. It feels like a reaction, like something they did because of what happened between you, because of the breakup, or the estrangement, or whatever the ending was. It is not. A smear campaign is a preemptive strike. In most cases, it begins before the relationship ends. Sometimes months before, sometimes longer. Because a narcissist, long before the ending is official, understands that endings are dangerous. Endings mean loss of control, loss of the narrative, loss of the supply you provided, and, most critically, the possibility that you will tell your story, your actual story, with your actual account of what happened. And that possibility, the possibility that your version exists and could be heard, is the threat that the smear campaign is designed to neutralize. Not to hurt you, not primarily. To discredit you. To build a world in which, by the time your version arrives, the audience has already been prepared to receive it as the distorted account of someone unreliable. The smear campaign does not need people to hate you. It just needs them to doubt you. And doubt is very easy to build. Here is how it is built. The first layer is the vulnerability harvest. Everything you told them in confidence, your insecurities, your past struggles, your moments of genuine vulnerability, the things you shared because you trusted them, becomes material. Not used directly, not quoted, shaped. Your history of anxiety becomes evidence of instability. Your past relationship struggles become a pattern of dysfunction. Your moments of anger, the ones that were responses to their behavior, become proof of your volatility. Everything you offered in trust becomes ammunition in a story where you are the problem. And here is what makes this particularly devastating. The things they use are real. The anxiety was real. The past struggles were real. The moments of anger were real. They just exist now in a version of the story that removes all the context that would make them make sense. Without context, a person defending themselves from abuse looks like an abusive person. Without context, a person in genuine distress looks like someone who is unstable. Without context, your story becomes their evidence. The second layer is the flying monkey network. They do not deliver the campaign themselves, not in most cases. They build a network, mutual friends, family members, colleagues, people who care about them, people who feel concerned, people who have been given just enough of the story to feel that they understand the situation. These people are not villains. They are people who were used, given a version of events that was assembled to produce a specific response: concern for the narcissist, doubt about you, and then sent out into the world, carrying that version as if it were fact. The flying monkeys deliver the campaign. They reach people you could not predict. They carry the story into rooms you are not in. They answer questions about you before you even know questions are being asked. And because they believe what they are saying, because they were given the story by someone they trust, and they have no reason to question it, they deliver it with conviction. And conviction is persuasive. The third layer is the preemptive positioning. They reached people first. This is the one that causes the most damage and the most confusion. By the time you try to tell your story, by the time you reach out to a mutual friend, a family member, anyone from your shared world, they have already been there. And in many cases, those people have already formed a view, based on a version of events that had the benefit of arriving first. Because the first story heard is the hardest to dislodge, even when the second story is true, even when the second story has evidence, even when the person telling the second story is in front of them, real, consistent, making sense. The first story sits underneath everything, and the smear campaign was built knowing this. Now, here is the midpoint of this video, and I need to stop here and speak to you directly, because I know what is happening inside you right now. You are thinking, I just need to tell them the truth. If I explain what actually happened, if I show them the evidence, if I reach enough people with the real story. I need to tell you something about that impulse. It is understandable. It is human. It is the natural response to having your story replaced. And it will not work the way you need it to. Not because the truth does not matter. Because in a smear campaign, the truth is not what is being contested. Your credibility is. And here is why that distinction matters. When someone's credibility has been pre-damaged, when the audience has already been primed to receive your version as the account of someone unreliable, the act of defending yourself produces exactly what the campaign needed. It makes you look defensive. Every explanation looks like an excuse. Every piece of evidence looks like the actions of someone trying to build a case. Every emotional response looks like the instability they described. The campaign was built so that your natural, human, reasonable response to it would confirm the narrative. You cannot win on their terrain, because the terrain was built against you. So what do? Here is what actually helps. The first thing is stopping the campaign from mattering more than your actual life. The people who believed it without asking, without coming to you, without giving you a chance to speak, showed you something important. They showed you the limit of what was actually there. A person who genuinely knows you, who has seen you across time, in multiple circumstances, in the complexity of who you actually are, does not update their entire view of you based on one version of events delivered by someone with an obvious interest in the narrative. The ones who were reached most easily by the campaign were the ones who were most reachable. And that is information. Not comfortable information, but information about what was actually there, and what was always more surface than it appeared. The second thing is protecting your energy from the campaign itself. Because the campaign wants your attention. Every hour you spend trying to counter it, correct it, reach people who believed it, that is energy that came from you and went into a story about you that you did not write. Your energy is yours. The campaign is not entitled to it. The third thing is rebuilding on your own terms. Not through counter-narrative, through actual behavior over time. The most powerful response to a smear campaign is not a better argument. It is a life. Consistent, visible, real behavior over time, with the people who are actually in your world, is the only thing that builds the kind of trust that a campaign cannot reach. You cannot correct what they said, but you can make what they said increasingly irrelevant through the actual texture of who you are over time. The fourth thing is understanding what the campaign tells you about them. A smear campaign is not a sign of someone's power over you. It is a sign of their fear of you. Specifically, their fear of your account. People who are confident in their version of events do not need to preemptively discredit everyone who might contradict them. The campaign is the evidence of what they knew about themselves. The level of effort that went into making your story unbelievable is a direct measure of how believable your story actually is. They worked that hard because your truth was that dangerous to them. And now, the thing I promised you. The thing nobody says directly to people who have survived a smear campaign. Here it is. You did not lose the people who believed it. You found out what was actually there. And I know that does not make it hurt less. I know that the loss of those people, the friends, the family members, the community, is real, is significant, is a grief that deserves to be treated as a grief. But underneath that grief, when you are ready to look, is something clarifying. The people who stayed, who came to you, who asked, who gave you the chance to speak, who looked at the full picture before they decided. Those people showed you something. They showed you what unconditional actually looks like. They were not reachable by the campaign, not because they were naive, because what was there between you and them was built on enough real foundation that one story, however convincing, could not dismantle it. Those people, the ones who stayed, are the ones worth rebuilding around. And the life you build around them, the real one, the one that was always there underneath the relationship that tried to make it smaller, that is not a consolation prize. That is the actual thing. The campaign tried to take your story from you. It did not take your life. And your life, the one you are still living, the one they did not reach, the one that belongs entirely to you, is more than what they tried to make it. You are still here. They are still trying to make sure people do not believe you. Which means you are still worth silencing. And that means you were never as destroyed as they needed you to be. If this video gave you language for something you have been living without being able to name, please share it with one person who is still standing in the wreckage, wondering what they did wrong. Tell them what they did wrong is trust someone who was already building the campaign while they were building the relationship. Subscribe, because this channel exists to give you the psychology that names the things that were done to you before you even knew they were happening. I will see you in the next one.